Parents had a problem. Young people wanted time alone. Parents wanted exactly the opposite. So, some early modern and colonial North American communities came up with one of history's strangest compromises. Let the couple spend the night together, but put something between them. Sometimes it was a physical wooden board. Sometimes it was heavy clothing. Sometimes a sack. And sometimes the solution was simply another person sitting close enough to make sure privacy never happened. The details changed from one community to another. This was never one universal ritual practiced everywhere. It was a patchwork of local solutions to the same deeply awkward question. How do you let two people get close enough to know each other without letting them get close enough for everything else? Whatever form the solution took, the message remained the same. Proximity? Yes. Privacy? Absolutely not. Families expected human desire to respect the furniture. Human desire, historically, has had mixed feelings about that arrangement. Supervision was still the rule. But the fact that families needed a workaround at all tells us something important. Young people wanted time alone badly enough that communities began building physical systems just to control it. Boards, clothing, open doors, watching relatives. Different methods, the same goal. Keep the couple close enough to court, but never private enough to forget who was in charge. The furniture was not really solving the problem, it was buying time. Because by the next century, courtship would move into a completely different room. A room designed from the beginning to let two people fall in love while someone else watched. By the 19th century, courtship had a designated room, and the woman's family controlled the door. In many middle-class American and British households, courtship happened inside the family home, under direct supervision. Calling cards and formal visiting rituals structured exactly who was allowed to show up, when, and for how long. This wasn't casual. It was closer to an etiquette exam with romantic stakes. A young man didn't simply show up to see someone he liked. He presented a card, waited to be received, sat in a parlor with a chaperone nearby, and conducted an entire relationship within arm's reach of someone's mother. For centuries, courtship happened under the family's roof. That system worked as long as families actually had a parlor to control, a physical space where courtship could be watched, managed, and quietly vetoed. It assumed young people were staying home. They were about to stop. Then young people moved to cities, and the roof disappeared. Industrialization pulled huge numbers of young people into urban centers for wage labor. Many of them lived in cramped housing with no parlor, no chaperone, and often no space private enough to receive a visitor properly. So courtship went outside, into restaurants, dance halls, amusement parks, and early cinemas, a new public and commercial infrastructure for recognizable modern dating. This is also where the word itself shows up. One frequently cited early romantic use of date appears in an 1896 Chicago newspaper column by George Ade. At the time, it carried real class and moral baggage. Public courtship wasn't considered fully respectable yet. Here's where it gets interesting economically. Young working women were often paid far less than young working men, which meant they frequently couldn't afford the very venues where courtship was now happening. So men often paid, a pattern known at the time as treating. Recognizable modern dating wasn't just becoming public, it was becoming commercial and increasingly tied to who could actually afford the outing. Naturally, this alarmed a lot of respectable adults. Moral reformers and city authorities tried to regulate dance halls, worried about what exactly was happening in all that unsupervised, low-lit, music-adjacent space. Mostly, they lost. The dating pool had just expanded from whoever lives near your family to whoever else showed up at the dance hall tonight. Parents could no longer watch nearly as closely. Something else would have to step in to keep an eye on things, and it arrived with a motor. The automobile solved a problem cities had just created. Nowhere private left to go. As car ownership spread, young couples gained a level of mobility courtship had never really had before. For many young people in car-owning societies, escaping direct family supervision became dramatically easier. Naturally, this triggered a full moral panic. Parents, commentators, and various concerned adults spent a great deal of the 1920s worrying about exactly what young people were doing in parked cars, and generally assumed the worst. The automobile provided transportation, privacy, and poor decision-making on wheels. Now a date could leave the neighborhood far more easily and take direct supervision with it. The parlor chaperone couldn't follow you down the highway. Neither could the neighbors, the dance hall manager, or anyone else who used to have eyes on the situation. Supervision hadn't vanished completely, but it had lost its home field advantage. Dating had officially outrun the people trying to watch it, which meant society needed a new way to keep track of who was actually together, since it clearly couldn't rely on line of sight anymore. If dating was harder to supervise, it could at least be labeled. Courtship during the Second World War often accelerated dramatically, with couples marrying quickly before deployment. In the years afterward, American youth culture formalized a very specific relationship status: going steady. Going steady came with merchandise. Class rings, letterman jackets, and similar tokens functioned as public signals of exclusivity, worn proudly, understood instantly by everyone at school. Dating had lost some of its supervision, so the 1950s gave it a uniform instead. It's a strange little irony. A system built around private cars and hidden backseats produced one of the most publicly visible relationship customs in American history. You couldn't watch what a couple did on a date, but you could absolutely see whose jacket she was wearing. That visible, structured version of dating assumed one very specific destination: marriage, and reasonably soon. That assumption was about to get a lot less certain. Subscribe now to catch the next part as soon as it drops.